Hello, y'all. If y'all could just look up for a second. I don't want to bother you. I know I'm not ever supposed to bother people when they're eating, so y'all can continue to eat. Just kind of pay attention out of one side to us. We'd appreciate it. We got a couple of speakers here this morning. We're honored to have Dr. Rosales with UTRGV. He's going to talk a little bit about, again, in more detail about the reason why we're doing these events together and how they fit together. I think you'll find his logic and reasoning really compelling as to how it makes a complete story rather than just focusing again on a particular type of actor in the food systems work. Certainly the farmers and ranchers are in the spotlight today and worthily so. But he's going to talk about the whole gamut of the food systems work here for a little bit. And then he's going to have the honor to introduce the Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, which is a quite unique opportunity to have her here today with us. And she's going to tell a little bit about what's going on at USDA and how they're attempting to do a good job and a better job helping all of us make the food system a little bit more vibrant and resilient, equitable, and all of those things. And so, Alex, if you want to come up. Again, y'all continue to eat, please.
Good afternoon, good morning. Again, my name is Alex Rosales. I'd just like to welcome everyone here today. We've got a great and inspiring crowd. We've got people coming from very far away to be here. A lot of guests from Washington, D.C., some guests who've come as far as California. We've got some folks from El Paso, Central Texas. We've got some folks from Rhode Island. And it's just inspiring to see this kind of diverse audience in front of us. I was asked to introduce the Deputy Secretary, but I'd like to just take a few minutes to especially welcome our guests from out of town, because I think if you spend a few days here, you'll realize why this area is one of the best kept secrets in the United States. You are in what is considered the breadbasket for the state of Texas. This area that's just along this U.S.-Mexico border, we have some of the most productive soils in the country. And in fact, the state of Texas is one of the biggest agricultural states with the most farms in the country. And this Rio Grande Valley is the leader in the states in the production of so many fruits and so many vegetables, right? I mean, so if you're from the Northeast and you're eating cabbage or you're eating kale, you're probably eating kale that comes from the Rio Grande Valley, so you're welcome. If you ever had a ruby red grapefruit, which is the finest, best grapefruit in the world, it comes from the Rio Grande Valley. Even when you eat beef, this area is the largest producer of grain sorghum in the country. That grain sorghum is often fed to livestock, poultry, and so in many ways, what you're eating at some point has come through the Rio Grande Valley. And I say that because the valley is also home to the 4 largest land ports in the country. We have, for example, the FAR International Bridge is the #1 produce gateway in the United States, and it has more than $33 billion of trade a year with Central and South America. And so a lot of food, the food that you're eating on the table probably came through one of those ports, or if not, has been grown here in the valley itself. Part of the reason why we're having this very special event that combines the historic Texas Hispanic Farmers and Ranchers Conference, which I think is in its 6th year, and with the 2nd annual RGV Food Summit, is to try to first of all, celebrate the agricultural richness of our region, but also try to leverage that richness and to address some of our problems here at home, right? And so we all know how challenging farming is. We have a lot of farmers in the room. Ranching is very difficult, and that we're able to have such bounty with some of the most difficult trying growing conditions is a testament to the resolve of farmers and ranchers in this region. But when you think about our food that we grow, I think we just look at our own population and we realize that this region has the highest rates of food-related diseases in the country. We also have some of the highest rates of food insecurity in the country. 1 in 3 school children are hungry. And I have some colleagues who are working in school nutrition, and they say that a third of kindergartners are obese or overweight, but by the time they're in the 6th grade, it's 2/3. Right? So, and these are students who get 80% of their calories in school food. And that says something a little bit about our food system, where we grow so much bounty here in the Rio Grande Valley, and yet most of our citizens don't have access to some of the best grown food in the country. And so some of the questions, the answers to some of those issues are in this room. We have farmers, we have ranchers who are every day fighting against some of the biggest challenges like drought, fickle markets, and yet they continue to produce, but are struggling. Hidalgo County has actually lost more farmers than the national rate. Last year, in the last 5 years, the country has lost, I think, 7%. Let me think. It says right here. Whoever came with the ag census, I have your data right here. We lost almost 7% of farms in the last 5 years in the country. And here in Hidalgo, we lost 11%. Yeah. Why? The question is why. I don't have the answer to that question, but that's what we're here to discuss. And how can we help those farmers who are on those lands stay farmers, that it's a honored and a profitable enterprise? You can talk to a farmer, and I think they'll tell you why it's hard to farm. And I think our question is that we have so many resources here, both state and federal, local. How can we help? Right? Tomorrow, if you're here tomorrow, we're bringing in 37 school districts from around the Rio Grande Valley to meet with farmers who are interested in figuring out how to sell our food so that we can feed our own students. That's only a small part to answer your question. Now, there is some silver linings. In Hidalgo County, where we've lost 16% of farmland in the last 5 years, we've actually seen a small increase in new and beginning farmers. So a lot of people are taking up the mantle. And these aren't farmers that are large size. These are farmers who are farming small sizes. The farmers who are more likely to sell to schools and to sell to our communities. The farmers who actually care about how they treat their workers and really treat them with dignity. And these are the folks that we want to also help support. So we want to, the question is how can we leverage the wealth in this room to be able to make sure that the prosperity of agriculture here in the Rio Grande Valley is prosperous for all, right? And so we're leaning on all these young people. I'm looking at my students over there. We're leaning on you guys to help, right? And I say this to my students. When you graduate with a master's degree here in the Rio Grande Valley, you are in the top 3% of educated people in the region. And with that privilege comes a responsibility, right? I mean, I think we all feel that. And so this is a big invitation to all the young people here who we are bequeathing our food system to. I think this is the big challenge of your generation, and we want to lend all of our support we can to help. And so it's with my pleasure to be able to introduce our Deputy Secretary of Agriculture, who has been a champion of finding some of these solutions and directing the agency towards some of these solutions in ways that benefit regions like ours. Right? So, for example, you'll see downstairs, and tomorrow we're going to be rolling out some of the recommendations that we've laid out for the USDA to help improve access to funding for farmers in the Rio Grande Valley, to help them find and identify who can help us with issues around water and water security. We've asked them to help better reach a diverse population so that the federal funding that is currently available reaches those that need it most. And so it's with my pleasure and my honor to introduce Deputy Secretary Xochitl Torres Small, who is here to address our audience.
Thank you so much. It's a joy and an honor to get to be here with you today. I just want to thank you so much, not just for being here and spending your crucial time here, but even more than that, for being this organization. I mean, when it comes to advocates for farmers and making sure that farmers are able to continue to do the hard and crucial work of feeding our country, making sure that we can hold on to small and mid-sized farmers that are crucial to the resiliency of not only rural America, but all of America, your voice is fundamental in that. And frankly, it's a voice that hasn't always been listened to. Sometimes it's been a voice that's been ignored. And often it's been a voice that we haven't taken into consideration when it comes to looking at our programs and how they can best serve you. Entonces, buenas tardes, mucho gusto, es un honor estar aquí con ustedes. Muchísimas gracias por su invitación. Quiero que sepan que USDA los está escuchando y queremos seguir fortaleciendo colaboración con cada una de ustedes. I'm so proud to get to be here with you and apologize for those of you who are waiting on the next course. I'll try to make it quick, but look forward to this chance to have this conversation. I want to start with a really important announcement, which some people might not get how it connects to farming, but I am pretty sure that every single one of you will. First, just how many of you are from McAllen, specifically the city of McAllen? All right, excellent. How many of you are from somewhere else, maybe a little bit smaller than McAllen? Okay. How many of you are from somewhere else a lot smaller than McAllen? There we go. I have the honor today of bringing you an announcement in terms of an investment in high-speed internet. So as you know, in the bipartisan infrastructure law, President Biden invested over $60 billion in high-speed internet all across the country. Now, most of that is going through the states, and so it is being allocated through awards to the states. In USDA rural development, we received about $2 billion through rural development to go directly to communities. But one of the things that we've seen as we've made those awards is that there are communities who are left out. And so as we look at this $60 billion that are going through different ways, we decided to make a very specific investment in technical assistance, in supporting communities that can then help others in providing that technical assistance and figuring out how to apply for those funds. And so we're announcing today $5.2 million in broadband technical assistance, some of which is going directly to stakeholders in Texas. Now, you all know that high-speed internet is crucial when it comes to running your operations, when it comes to making advancements in precision agriculture, and also when it comes to making sure that your hometown is a place where future generations can choose to be in and still pursue their best opportunities. Sometimes people ask, why is rural development in the United States Department of Agriculture? But those of you who raised your hands, you know why. The other reason why I wanted to bring that announcement specifically to the Equity Commission's role in this food summit is because technical assistance is a fundamental part of how we make sure the work that we do truly serves you. Because funding for those big programs doesn't mean much if there isn't a path, a plan, and a team with implementation. With these new resources, cooperatives and other organizations who are positioned to receive or deliver broadband technical assistance and training in rural and tribal communities will become part of the USDA team, part of President Biden's vision for connecting every community across America with affordable, reliable, high-speed internet. If you want to picture how this works, I'll share a story with you about an organization in the South Valley of Texas. Now, they were originally formed as a union to advocate for farm workers, and today they continue to work on those issues as well as other issues that matter most to people in the farm working community. In our conversation, flood control was the highest issue, and those of you who live on dirt roads know why. The second issue was high-speed internet. And until the organization elevated the concerns of the community, nobody would listen to them. No one would take their calls saying, why can't I get high-speed internet? Companies wouldn't call them back, and no one would take them seriously. But then the community had the power of their collective interests and representation to form an organization that could get those calls answered. The goal of this technical assistance is to work with organizations like that. They're going to help bring broadband to the communities that still have not been reached. Now, this funding is wonderful news, and I'm so glad to be able to share it with you today, because no matter where you live across this country, you deserve access to high-speed internet, whether it's downtown Dallas or the colonias, because it's all about all of our future. But technical assistance isn't just for high-speed internet. It's for making all of our programs better. And it's a fundamental way of how we can both work with and learn from you. And that's why it's a matter of equity, but it's also a matter of economics. Growing our economy, not just in rural communities, but across the nation, starts with investing in the hardworking people who are already there. I know that over the next couple of days, you'll be hearing about the many ways we are removing barriers to access our programs and services for all Americans, including ensuring USDA resources reach underserved communities and those who need those with the most need. I want to emphasize that a key component of our approach has been to truly listen to and seek outside recommendations for how we can do a better job of serving you. One pillar of this approach has been the establishment of the Equity Commission. It's a commission of experts, some of whom are in this room today, to make recommendations for lasting change to ensure a better future. So if you're here, please stand up. Chairman Arturo Rodriguez. Dr. Alexis Rosales. Valerie Beal. David Carrasquillo Medrano. Now, these people have worked incredibly hard. Over the last 2 years, the Commission worked to identify opportunities for improvement. And this past February, they presented me, along with Secretary Vilsack, a total of 66 recommendations across a wide span of topics. And I'll tell you, each of those recommendations has little sub-bullets, so it ends up being a whole lot of really exciting work. The Commission's report is all about communities, about how to improve the lives of everyone we see, and those who haven't been seen across our government. So I just want to ask each of you a question. How many of you have used a USDA program before? Okay, thank you. We're glad to be partners. How many of you maybe started trying to use a USDA program and then decided not to? Yeah. How many of you have never used a USDA program? No matter where I go, I run into farmers or farm workers or rural people who say, you know what, I just don't think your programs are for me. They take way too much work, or they require equity that I don't have. And as I look at each one of those programs and each one of these 66 recommendations, I know that that is our job to make sure that these programs are tuned to fit you. Now, sometimes the answer is technical assistance. How do we make sure that there's someone who can walk you through that application? But other times it's about finding ways just to make the application more simple. And that sounds like an easy thing to do, but it turns into the nitty-gritty really quickly. And that's where these recommendations are going to be so vital. Because work of this magnitude requires ongoing commitment. I wish I could say otherwise, but it's truly never finished. It takes getting better each and every day. We believe we've made a strong start towards this effort. In fact, I have the Equity Commission report on my desk. It's got tabs, it's got crosstabs in terms of where are the places that we are working right now, where are the places we're going to have to work with Congress or others in order to make a difference. At the department level, we've been taking a look internally to see how to better operate in order to ultimately serve our stakeholders better. So one example of this is the Language Access Plan that was published last fall. This relates to Equity Commission Report Recommendation 8.4, but it also relates to Equity Commission Recommendation 10.24, which is about farm worker access to programs when it comes to language accessibility. We are actively working to better serve our customers in other ways too, like the Ask USDA call center, which is a service that answers calls and people's questions about USDA programs, any USDA program, in more than 10 languages. When I think about our Access Language Plan, I think about the kids in many of our communities who so often bear the burden of being the translator for their parents. In fact, not so long ago I was in Kentucky and I was visiting a self-help program, which is part of rural development, where community members work together to build their own houses and the houses of their neighbors. And I noticed that one of the families was sitting off to the side. I was trying to figure out why that was. I walked over and I realized it's because they didn't speak English, and so their daughter was translating for them. And when I had the chance to speak in my Spanish, que no es perfecto, pero necesito practicar, ¿no? Entonces, we started talking in Spanish, and their entire outlook changed because suddenly that meeting was for them. And when I got the chance to talk with the girl, she said, "Thank you so much for letting me be a participant, not just a translator." And she said, "Thank you also for letting me think what I could be someday." It was such a touching moment, and I will always think of her when we're talking about how to help families through language access. It's helpful for the families, the individuals, and the kids who have had to serve as interpreters. One of the toughest areas to bring change, as you can see from that example, is farm worker housing. The needs are so great, and the rewards of real change are also great. Whether you're a farmer or a farm worker, you should care about farm worker housing. When I was in California recently, I visited a USDA-sponsored farm worker housing project. The housing complex was such a happy place, and it was giving its workers what they needed in order to succeed. But I've also seen what it's like when farm workers don't have access to that type of housing. Places where the water is unsafe, where they have to go to the office every morning to get their water, and they can only go during hours that also happen to be the hours that they're working. When we don't take care of farm workers, we lose opportunity. We also fail to live up to our values as people. Right now, we're looking at recommendations to address recognition of farm workers' needs within government processes, programs, services, funding, and policies. In fact, just last week, we made a new construction funding announcement for farm worker housing. $48 million in available funding to construct, improve, or purchase or repair housing for farm workers across the nation through off-farm labor housing programs and on-farm labor housing programs. So we're currently seeking applications for those loans and grants. If you are thinking about how to best find opportunities for labor or to support farm worker communities, I hope you'll consider working with us on this. It's another example of how when you're working for farm workers, you're working for all of us. You're working for farmers, and you're working for a food system that recognizes that need. We're also engaging farmers, ranchers, foresters, and producers in other ways that are more effective than in the past. We're streamlining program delivery and opening doors to agriculture to all by providing a more effective and holistic farm safety net, and by just making things easier. One example of that is the new process to pay your loans online. Now, if you're a farmer, you know why this matters, because if you have a loan right now, just a few months ago, and to pay that off every single time, you had to take time, drive to an FSA office, and drop off a check. I've been doing a land grant institution tour lately, and when I talk about this improvement, I ask the students, how many of you even have a checkbook? Sometimes it's one in a class. So the opportunity now to be able to pay online helps any farmer, no matter their size, to be able to not have to take that drive, not have to go to the Farm Service Agency office unless they want to. And if they do, that option is still open. Pay My Loan now provides an online direct loan payment option available through farmers.gov. We want to make sure that your lives are easier because small and mid-sized farms are fundamental to the future of ag. You all are also fundamental to the future of the food supply resiliency. You're fundamental to rural resiliency. You're making sure that children of farmers and farm workers alike can grow up and have real opportunity in the homes that they love and in the ag industry. As you may know, NRCS recently received an enormous investment through the Inflation Reduction Act through President Biden. One of the most exciting things about these investments is it's augmenting funds that are already available. Have any of you used EQIP, for example? When it comes to what you're facing here with water supply, it's a crucial part of an incredibly challenging puzzle. So as we look for ways to make sure that you have access to the water that you need, we also want to work hand in hand with you with ways to be able to conserve the water that you have. And through programs and investments like NRCS's EQIP, as well as conservation easements and partnerships through RCPP, it provides an opportunity for any farmer to take that challenge. There's been a lot of discussion about the Farm Bill lately, and sometimes people ask, well, what about the farm safety net? And that is a crucial part of the Farm Bill. But if you're a farmer, you know that safety net typically only applies if you grow certain crops. And people who grow those certain crops usually tend to be larger farmers. We get that. It's an important part of our food system. But programs like EQIP, programs like ASAP, are programs that any farmer can access, no matter your size and no matter your crop. It's a fundamental to investing in equity and investing in each other. As I said in the beginning, I've got good news to share, but there's a lot of work to be done. Every update, every investment represents our deep commitment to improving the economy and quality of life of rural America and ensuring that all communities can thrive regardless of their zip code. And by the way, we intend to see an impact not just on our programs today, but on our programs of tomorrow. Future generations of USDA employees will design and deliver programs through a lens of equity. We're baking it into the department's process and culture to make a lasting difference. But to do that, to make that lasting difference, we will need your help. To the students in the audience, I hope you consider becoming part of USDA so that USDA can truly be meant for you. Thank you.